Welcome to Mesh Retopology. In this video, you will use existing mesh data to create new mesh data. You'll understand that remaking meshes can take a lot of time, but it's often part of the workflow, especially with organic models. Now, in our case, the church is an organic model, so it's not going to be a lot of time, it'll just be some time. And of course, fix your model if you're having the same problem as me. Now, a couple of examples of retopology. Now we're going to have a look back at the previous section. So we had this bunny that we created, and yours would have probably ended up looking something similar to this one. And as you can see, the geometry's not very even. There's lots of it. Some may argue far too much in places. But that wasn't important to the lessons we were doing at the time, nor was it important to the overall model. However, that can be broken down into something that looks much simpler, but using that base topology, the base mesh, as a template to work from. And as you can see there's additional geometry where it's needed and less where there's not, and they are all quads, so that is a reasonable good model. It took about an hour or so to get from one to the other, and just the two side by side here so you can see what they look like next to one another. As you can see, I didn't bother doing the back end of the rabbit itself. I thought that would be a bit mute at this point in time. I think you get the example that's in front of you. So that is very powerful, and the obvious advantages to this: number one, it lowered the polygon count no end. Number two, that's a much easier mesh to work with and edit because it has a series of loops running around it, and that is very important the more complicated your models get. So, enough of these comparisons, let's go hop straight on over into Blender. Okay, so back over in Blender, let's go take apart our mesh and work out what we need and don't need. So let's go ahead and focus. It's mirrored for a start, so I'm going to turn off the mirror. That's previous here, and go to the properties, where is it? Okay. Modifier and mirror, I'm just going to hide it from view for the moment so I can see what's going on inside. So at the moment we've got this entire big floor plan with nothing else in it, which isn't very helpful. Nothing is broken up. If I had a bit more forethought, I was so focused on just making a placeholder for all of this lot, I completely neglected the fact that I'm going to have to unwrap this, and you can see that it's not very neat and tidy for unwrapping. It would be a real pain, and there are some inside faces. This is going to be a real nightmare. So what we should do here, and if yours is like this, if you've already sorted this out and you've not got a problem, then brilliant, you're one step ahead of me at this point. And we need to break this down into its various components. So we've got a back wall, two side walls here, this sort of intermediate wall, and the one at the very back or front. I don't know which way. I suppose the door would be here and you'd walk this way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 separate entities to do, and this will also give me the opportunity, of course, to add in a doorway here. So I have light coming in from this direction and something at the back as well, an archway at the back. So how are we going to go about doing this and making sure it's nice and neat? Well, we're going to use the underlying topology, the mesh that's underneath, in order to do it. Now, at the moment, I've renamed it building because that was appropriate, but we need to really start cutting it back down. In fact, I think we're going to end up losing this information here, these windows. I think we're going to have to we might be able to get away with making some new stuff around it if we delete one of the couple of faces. Anyway, there's a big deconstruction job to do. So have you got your wrecking balls ready? Because we're going to do some demolition. But before we demolition, we do need to make sure the church is empty. Well, we don't, but it just makes it easier on the eyes when we're working the model. Okay, and it also means we won't be selecting anything. So the one thing that I do want to keep is the floor plan itself. So there's a couple of ways of going about this, and I'm ultimately excuse me. And I'm ultimately going to end up deleting everything but the floor itself. So we're going to, let's start with something nice and straightforward. He says it might take a while to get my handle on it. This wall here. So I'm going to start from the outside and use it as reference. So I'm going to need another mesh object, but before I do that I need to place something on our model. So I'm going to pick, if I can find the right angle, I'm going to select this vertex down at the bottom here, Shift S and move the cursor to selected. Now that I've done that, I can go out into object mode and add a new item, so mesh. Now I've got single vertex here and I'm going to add that. If you don't have this option, then that means that you have not enabled your extra objects under mesh. Add mesh extra objects, make sure that's enabled, and then you can add an individual vertex. So let's go ahead and add that vertex. Now that we've done that, we can literally start snapping it to the other vertices that are available. So I'm going to extrude, but before I do that I'm going to turn snapping on and vertex, and I'm going to turn wireframe on as well so I can actually see what I'm snapping to. So we're going to go across to here and then up to the top, not that top, this top, and I'm going to turn on merging the vertices, automatically merging, because that's going to be very useful whilst I'm doing this. There, and that should make sure that I don't have to remove any duplicates. Brilliant, and I can see that straight away there's a twisting problem. In fact, it's just the angle I've been at. Now, this isn't going to be too much of a pain to fix. It looks like everything's on the inside wall rather than the outside one. Never mind. But what I can do here is simply move this vertex, because it's got vertex select on. So I'll select that one by itself and just move it on top of that one. And there we go, we've corrected the mistake. And in fact, if I want it back on the outside wall, because I'm still on vertex select, it's relatively straightforward to do. I can just move the entire thing and snap it. Now there is a vertex there, you can't see it because it's in the middle of a edge itself, so without actually clicking on it you wouldn't know it was there by just looking. Okay, so now that we've got this here, the best way of making these, there's an option here of doing an array or not. I'm not sure how much work it's going to be either way, so usually with repetition you'd want to make an array. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a loop cut. Now I can't create a loop cut in something that hasn't been filled, so let's just cut that out, fill that in, and now do a loop cut. And I want the loop cut, I'm going to move it, and I want to lock it to what looks like the Z-axis, and one there. And I will need to do that again and again and again. So I'll see you in a few moments, and go ahead now and loop cut around all of these objects. And you can watch me in a bit higher speed doing this very mundane task. Okay, so the last one, move it and lock it on the x-axis. And now we need to do the same thing horizontally, and we've got a few other vertical ones to do as well, but we'll come back to that in a few moments. So let's put in the horizontal ones. So I'm going to want one at the top and one at the bottom to define where the window actually goes. And of course, I now need to hold down Alt to select that, and let's move it on the Z-axis and shift it up. And this one here, again, Alt, hold that down, move it on there, Z-axis, and let's lock it to the top. Now, I'm just going to zoom in here. Is that top flat? No, okay, so we're going to have a slight issue here, whereby we could put a couple of loop cuts in here to define where this is, but what I really want to do is just have that smack bang in the middle and not worry about anything else. So I can put a loop cut smack bang in the middle with no other, not moving it to the one side or the other. I'm just going to leave it as 0. Okay, now there are a couple of horizontal cuts we can now put in to define basically the same points, or roughly the same point the archways were before. Excellent. So now that that's gone, we can we can work on it from here. We can actually go to the vertex select and move the vertex on the x-axis, so G and X, and snap it to where it was on the previous model or the model underneath. And that should create us, in fact there's going to be a one placing on top of the other, just here bang right on top, and of course they merge together. So again, I'm going to whiz ahead now and merge these vertices, because it's not very exciting me watching do the same thing over and over and over again. And we can see here I've just gone back in. If you want everything to meet at one particular point, if you click on the vertex itself, you see these orange lines going out from it. That's a good indication that you've managed to get all of them connected together, and I think I have. So what I can do at this point in time is just hide the rest of this wall. Okay, that's looking pretty good. And we need to come out of wireframe mode for a moment, select some faces and remove them. And again, I think there are several ways, as always with Blender, that you could do things. I would consider making this out of an array. I'm not sure how much time that would save me in this case. Even making this procedurally would be an idea as well. But we won't do that at the moment. So let's select that and extrude it. But I need the building back on, so I know how far to extrude it by. E for extrude, lock it to the y-axis, there we go, and just bring it in. Is that too far? That's right on top, hence the hashing, the all too familiar hashing that goes on there. So that now that we've got this here, the next thing to do is to test its unwrap. So I'm going to need a UV image editor open. I'm going to open up my tiled texture that I had before. Have I lost it? I might have lost it. Let's go and find it. Resources, tiled texture example. There we go. So I've got that image back. So let's just go and unwrap and see what that looks like. And let's turn off. Oh, I should really keep an outline open as well for good control over what I can see and what I can't. But I don't care about the other bit for the moment. Let's go, we need to add a material as well, so back to properties, and let's go to the materials, and just add that material there. Okay, so let's go and see what that looks like in material mode. Okay, so we're the luminous pink. I've obviously lost something in my setup, so again we can correct that. We can hop into the node editor. And let's see what we've got here. The tiled texture example. I think that other PNG's gone walkies. I'm not sure why, but we switched it round. Let's go back to the 3D view, and there we go. So the thing to check here is there any distortion? And I can see straight away that there is. In fact, it's all wonky, or it looks all wonky. That's a great optical illusion. The bricks are coming in one way and not the other, and in the middle of the window here, it's not working at all. Brilliant, so we're almost there, and we're in much better control over this mesh than we were over the last one. In fact, it's already looking a ton better. We just need to clear up a few of those UV mapping problems. Of course, it's time for a challenge. So what would I like you to do? So of course, I bet you didn't guess it, I'd like you to create the remaining walls. So go ahead and create the remaining walls. Map your brickwork to those walls that you've made. If you have distortion, work on eliminating it. Perhaps your underlying geometry could be tweaked as well. And finally, render your scene and share it in the discussions. Now, this is one of those videos where I don't say pause, because the solution is going to be in the next video. So I will see you in the next lecture. Take care.